Best bets for Monday Night Football. We've got a game with, you're not going to believe it, the Denver Broncos, who seem to play on primetime every single week this year. Next week, not on primetime, but they are going to be playing in London in that island game. So the NFL loves to feature this terrible Denver Broncos team. At the very least, we have a good feel for what goes on with this team because we've seen them so much in primetime. They're going to be taking on the Chargers in tonight's game. And I think there are some good betting angles to be had, which makes even some of the worst of football games entertaining sometimes. We'll have some rooting interest no matter what. While you guys come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and a quick recap of my bets from this weekend slate. And they were terrible. So win, lose, or draw, I come out here, I try to be transparent, tell you guys the results of my bets. It's a lot more fun to do when the bets win. And yesterday, by far, my worst week of the season, had 7 bets, went 2 and 5 on them. What went right? Not very much. What went wrong? A lot more that went wrong. We had, as far as losing bets went, I had Devin Singletary under 43.5 rushing yards. One that I kind of knew earlier in the day I was probably boned on because we saw Zach Moss was ruled inactive for the Bills early in the day. And it was something then when, as soon as I saw that news come out, I wanted no part of the Devin Singletary under, but it was already locked in at that point. Not a lot I could do. I had Rachaad White over 18.5 rushing yards. Thought there was a good chance the Buccaneers were going to handily beat the Steelers, and that we'd see Rachaad White in the fourth quarter spelling Leonard Fournette. Not the case, because we actually saw the Buccaneers play terrible and lose to the Steelers. I did not expect that. And then Cooper Kupp, I had over 89.5 receiving yards. He was at 80 at the end of the third quarter, and then just didn't have to be involved in the passing game in the fourth quarter because the Rams were beating the Panthers via blowout. And then I had Kelsey under 78.5 receiving yards, and that one also, the Chiefs passing attack was just really strong with Kelsey being a big part of that. So he didn't have all that much passing game work in the
Day one. Actually, you mentioned it. I actually tweeted about this show because you brought it up before.
Oh, well, let me go read
it in Discord, promoted it on the old tweeters.
I like to hear this.
Yeah. My real modern man.
My first NBA show of the year. Your first NBA show of the year.
Mikey's as well. That's right.
That'll be good.
Yeah. Find our footing. Sure we know who's on which teams, you know.
Always fun. It's well, we'll save some of this for when we go live. All right, Stokastic, here we are. It is the No House Advantage NBA show. Why, yes, NBA gets going tomorrow, but we have such a good deal. We want to talk to you about it today. No House Advantage. It is the new wave of DFS sports. It's combining player props, which we all like, with DFS. It's a lot of fun. You're not going against the house. You're playing in peer-to-peer game. No House Advantage. We'll talk about them throughout the show here. But we wanted to get a little bit of a jump because there's so many moving parts, even though only 4 teams are in action. Terry, neither one of them is our favorite team. You like the Knickerbockers. I like the Seattle Supersonics, which hasn't existed.
Which of us is going to win a title next? Which is more likely to win the next title? I think you got a legit shot. But the way the Knickerbockers have been run over the past quarter, half a century or so at this point.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see if they'll do one more round of expansion, maybe Seattle gets a team or somebody moves there. I thought Sacramento the Kings were gonna move up there, but
I mean, they gave them a hockey franchise, for God's sake, out from Seattle. Like, give them back their basketball team, for crying out loud. It was a crime to take them from them in the first place.
Oh, too soon still, Terry. Too soon. But with that, guys, give us a like, give us a subscribe. We're having some fun here. We're going to be doing No House Advantage NBA afternoon shows throughout the work week. This is just kind of our little test balloon, but we do want to point out that they have a contest for opening night of $50,000, $20,000 to first. It's $20 to get in. But with the coming in through our link, which is just below us here in the description, if you click through that, you will get a deposit match up to $50 for your first deposit. That gets you 5 shots. If you put in $50, that gets you 5 shots into this this tournament. 20,000 up top, pretty good. We're going to call it kind of like a raffle system. It's not really a lottery ticket because we kind of have some control of it, but the price kind of feels like, you know, one of those buy a $20 lottery ticket and win, you know, $10,000 for the school raffle or whatever. It feels like this kind of, right? So we're going to get into this.
Yeah, for $20, you get like at arm's length, like at the county fair.
Yeah.
Tickets, right?
Yeah, exactly. One of those. So
it always felt like a better deal if you're like Manute Bol. Like Manute Bol's arm is probably like the length of my body. So I feel like he was getting a little bit of an advantage in those raffles. Not that Manute Bol and I probably attended the same county fair ever, but if he was ever at the Monmouth County Fair back in, let's say, the early 90s, maybe.
There's a chance.
Yeah.
There's a chance. All righty. But we're going to talk a little No House Advantage. We're going to kind of cover the games because guess what? Things have changed. There's been an off season. We have some moving parts and some new things going on here. First off, I want to mention what has changed with Philadelphia. Well, the main thing is they now have DeAnthony Melton in the mix as their third guard. Tyrese Maxey, of course, is kind of going to be cemented in there as a shoot first point guard, but that's okay. PJ Tucker's out there doing PJ Tucker things, as we like to say, meaning he's not shooting. So there will be some opportunities out there. Boston is their opponent. Boston is hosting this game. The Celtics have Malcolm Brogdon now. He will be their sixth man. Shocker of shockers, he's a little dinged up, though expected to play. Robert Williams out through December, it sounds like, or out until around Christmas with the knee issue. And then somehow they ended up with Danilo Gallinari. He's out for the whole year with the knee injury.
Expected to miss the whole season.
But he's there, as is Blake Griffin. So Blake Griffin is now suddenly playing backup minutes with Al Horford there at center. So let's talk a little bit about some of our Philly and Boston props. Are any of them kind of popping up here for you, Terry? And we'll I forgot to call these up, so let me get them right up. But we have free projections for No House Advantage, as well as we've put together the top several hundred lineups. So essentially what you're doing is picking 10 of your favorite props. You choose over or under, and then you assign them a confidence rating, 10 through 1. You get it correct, you get those points. Those points are the score that goes on in the contest. So it's a double probability on a 10-leg parlay. But you don't have to get every leg right. And for every little step you get right, you get points. But Terry, what are you thinking?
Double probability on a 10-leg parlay. It sounds more complicated than it is, gang. We're looking to put together some of these picks, and if you go to the site, we are giving you the probability that the under hits or that the over hits, which is what we're looking for here, right? So we've got a lot of these things listed in the high 80s, in the 90s. If you watched this show last year, that's what we're really focusing on, is some of those lock them in. You know, plug and play, forget about what the pick you made was, just put it into every lineup that you make. And then we're looking to win between the, some of the 70 and the high 60 type of picks that we can thread in between. And that's where the optimal lineups page comes in handy, because you can see, all right, this is the very top lineup. That one's going to probably be duped a bunch of times by all the sharps and everybody who's going to be entering this thing. But if we go back a couple pages, it's going to start to get unique pretty quickly. So the optimal lineups are killer. If you're looking for it on the site, it's a little bit tricky to find sometimes. So if you go to the NBA tab, the drop down at Stokastic, and you go down to the bottom tab on the first block that opens up, the free NBA DFS data, that'll open to the right, and there's a menu for No House. Drop that down, and it's the second one, the NBA optimal lineup. So we can open that up, and I'll take a look at that. We'll try and talk about what some of those lineups look like through the show here, but it does look like some of them are going to make sense, I think, for the to come out of the Philly Boston game. One of the ones that's really standing out at the top of the board in the unders is the Malcolm Brogdon. It just looks like they've got him out at a larger projection of minutes. It's not exactly in line with like a 36-minute projection in his per 36 numbers from last year, but it looks like the line is based on him just getting more minutes than what we're projecting him for at the site. We're projecting him at 26.9 minutes overall at Stokastic. That gives him a 3.51 assist per projection, and his line is 5.5. So that's coming up as an 89.7% probability of hitting the under. By the same token, we've got him at 21.24 on the PRA, the points plus assists plus rebounds. And that one messed out. It's 21.24 in his 26.9 minutes against a 26.5 line. So again, it's pretty comfortably under. That's an 86%er. I like the 89.7. I like him to go under on the assists. Per 36 last year, he was 6.3 assists. He had a 27.1% assist rate. But if we're expecting him to shave, 10 minutes off of that total, I think it's pretty reasonable that he's going to go under that 5.5 line.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing you got to think about is so much has changed. Guess who is the actual point guard? It's Marcus Smart. Derek White also there. Spent a lot of time at point guard throughout his career. So it's like we have three different combo guards there. And Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, perfectly capable passers, as is Hal Horford. This feels like a good one that we kind of want to go under. The one thing we've seen a lot in the first couple of games of the season is minutes are kind of spread out across a lot of the people. We don't see a tight rotation, but kind of everybody's going to get their chance to get on the court. It's opening night after all. So those are kind of the key things that we'll want to remember that change.
I think it's Bill Russell jersey retirement night for the narrative chasers.
There we go. There we go. Former
want to lose that one, but they're not going to want to lose any of the games they play this season. So you know how we feel about narratives around here. But for the people who do like it, yeah, they're retiring his number league wide, which is a pretty cool honor. Kind of like Mo Rivera, or kind of like Jackie Robinson. Mo Rivera was the last guy to wear his number.
Yeah. Well, Bill Russell actually coached the Sonics, bringing it full circle. At one point, he was the Sonics coach.
I didn't realize that he coached the Sonics.
After he had retired, when he was doing his coaching, I think he did.
It'd be weird if he was coaching the Sonics and playing for the Celtics at the same time.
Well, that would be a little challenging, meaning he was not a player coach for the Sonics.
Right.
It's what I was trying to go with there. But
player coach for the Celtics, coaching the Sonics, multifaceted.
Yes.
He's the GM of the Bucks.
Exactly. All right. So those are kind of some key ones. Now, as we get throughout the season, we'll be focusing more on just the projections and which ones are popping really high. But again, first show, sea legs here, everybody, right? Mm-hmm. We've got to kind of find our way through this stuff. And
it is important. Should we talk about just real quick, like how these cards come together in terms of
absolutely.
What we're specifically looking for? Like, why don't you take them through, the overall setup of the two different kinds of contests?
Sure, absolutely. So the easier one to describe is they have the versus the house contest. So over there on No House Advantage, if we click on the versus the house tab, it will bring up right now there's NHL and NFL. So we can just bring up NFL. So it's got all the players props from tonight's Monday Night Football game. So what you can do there is pick out a parlay card, 2, 3, 4, or 5 questions. If you get 5 questions and you get it right, it's a 20x payout. This is a little bit different from some of the other sites like this that we talk about, in that you do have to get, if you're doing 3 or 4 or 5, you got to get all of them right. There's no partial payout here, but that's why they have the 20x multiplier on the upside. These are dynamic lines, meaning they will move and change. So you're going to want to look at some of these early, because as sentiment changes or news changes throughout the day, these lines will move. The lines in their contests, those are just like salaries. Once they're posted, that's what they are. Everybody's going off that particular card. This is their more dynamic version. But for those of you that are in states that don't have sports books, and you do have this gets pretty close to making, it's damn close to a parlay card for player props. I mean, it's essentially that's what it is under the umbrella of what is allowed for DFS. So usually what you can do, they have a nice little feature there. You can click once you're in a contest. It gets a little easier to find things when you're just doing the versus the house. You can just scroll up or down They don't have a ton of offerings per se. Usually about 10 to 12 players will be on there. They won't put the quarterbacks usually get interceptions, touchdowns, yards. Occasionally they'll get rushing yards. Receivers usually have receptions and yards. It just kind of depends who the player is as to what they get. But for those of you that want to dabble in that mix there, you can take a peek at that. They don't have their basketball ones up yet because they're wanting everybody to get into their gigantic basketball contest. When we look at the large contest for tomorrow night, we can. I'm still on Pick'em. Let's, instead of going to NBA or NFL, go to NBA. Tonight, NBA 7 questions. So if it's going to be a single game, they usually just go 7 questions. There's plenty of things going on in basketball. We have the ability to, with 2 games, get easily 10 questions there. So it's the 10 through 1. So just remember, single game slates, they run out of things to put up there in a meaningful manner. So what you do is you decide where you want to assign your confidence points here. So if we look at our 10-player card up at the top, we had said which one? Malcolm Brogdon. So you can just search on the what is it called? Click on that there, Mike, and search on the player name, and you can just type in the player name. There'll be a little sub menu that shows you position as well once you're in the contest. So it's easier to sort through it. And then once you get down to the player, you can click in the right, the select prop. Now for basketball, there's plenty of statistics that are counting and that move well, right? Football, you got yards, you got touchdowns, maybe you got catches. Here we've got points, rebounds, assists, 3-pointers, RPA, as Terry mentioned. So there's lots of combinations that are available for basketball. This is an excellent format for basketball because there are so many choices. But we could come in here and we could pick, Malcolm Brogdon, 5.5 assists. And then once we click on that, we would it would be in our 10 lineup point. Now I've sent in a note to their programmers. Of course, I'm not a programmer, but wouldn't it be nice if you could just drag these around? Not yet. I'm sure they're doing more than Perl or Java or anything like that. But to remove a player, you just select, pick another or replace this card. You can't drag anybody, or you can't drag them up and down. But I'm sure they're working on that technology as well. Because sometimes,
let's give a quick shout out here to our guy Mikey Lawrence behind the scenes doing a killer job demonstrating all of this on the screen for the audience as you're talking it through. I'm not sure if you're even aware of that.
No, I'm watching it on the YouTube.
Okay.
It's like sure. I know we're a little delayed, but it's like, if we don't give him a hat tip here, people are going to think I'm the one that's actually trying.
Exactly. I had to blow that up. So we don't want you getting a big head around here. Come on.
Yes. Yes. So we're working on that. So, all right. So back to the picks here. So Terry kind of mentioned the Malcolm Brogdon one is pretty good. Anything else popping for you on the Boston side? Obviously we're looking at our free projections that we have on the site. But without Robert Williams, there could be some rebounds to go around. We know that Jayson Tatum he gets less than his what you would expect from a player of his caliber rebound wise. It's just positioning and where he plays on the court. He's a decent rebounder, but he's just usually not in a position to get him. Is that something you want to consider for an Al Horford, or is this kind of a stay away potentially for really any of the other plays?
So for at least the top of the card, right, where we're going with our extreme confidence points, I really just want to be looking to lock in a rotation of some of these extremely high probability ones. The high 90s, high 80 probability ones. Put those up, and you can rotate them through. All right, this card, this one's the 10, this one's the 9, this one's the 8, and then the next card you switch those up in the order of them. But I think that's really the approach. And you almost maybe treat like the top of the card kind of cash gamey, and then the bottom of the card you can get a little bit more tournament-y, where you're maybe using some of these 70s and 80s. So like the Tatum assists under is sitting at 78.5% probable. That's fairly strong. It's a 3.95 projection against a 5.5 line. It's not the craziest idea in the world that Jayson Tatum can come out here, play a full complement of, we've got him projected at 37 minutes. He averaged 35.9 last season. His per 36 assist number was 4.4. So that's still an assist and change under what that line is. Even if he comes out and gets his full complement of minutes, And you got to think, playing with new teammates, a new collection of new potential ball handling dominant and ball dominant guards like Malcolm Brogdon, who is going to be the sixth man and probably going to be more focused on scoring, like we were saying before, than facilitation. But you got to think that just the touches and the amount of times that Tatum's going to be looking to facilitate the offense versus finish, I would expect that to trend under. So that would be one that I'd be looking for a little bit down card. But I do think, yeah, those are some of the viable ones. And then we've always got the overs, which are always more fun. And I do always like to try and find the overs. Unfortunately, in this game, and the highest over overall on the entire board is only at 81.9%. That's the Pat Beverly rebounding over that we'll look at in a minute. In this game, we're dealing with a 67.8% over on James Harden in the rebounding. And on the Celtics side, Jayson Tatum's rebounding 61.8%. So that was the one that you had brought up. We've got it going over, but only by like 0.59. It's not a huge over. If we're looking at what he did in the per 36 cents last season, per 36, 8 rebounds per 36. So it's right in line with our projection. It's right in line with that line. It's difficult to say, yeah, lock that in unless you're building a bunch of these cards out. And then we're talking about, your 3 or below, your 3-2-1 probability somewhere in one of those blocks. Lock it into the bottom of the card if you're going that way. But again, not till I've built a few cards out. I wouldn't go to that one, I don't think.
All right. Well, let's look at our second game here because we do have some moving parts that we do need to mention. This will be the Golden State Warriors hosting the Los Angeles.
Before we move on game-wise,
yeah,
I was just talking Boston because we do have some extreme.
Okay, let's hit on Philly, and we don't have a show right after us, so we can go about 5 minutes over. We want to be respectful of everybody's time, and not to forget 6:30 tonight. We have almost 2 full hours of NFL Monday Night Football single game analysis coming up here for you. But as we're getting our sea legs here, I've mentioned that like 5 times. It's like when you switch sports formats and go from an hour to 30 minutes.
And you're working with me on a show that's half as long as it normally is, and I won't shut up, and you can't get a word in edgewise. Yeah, we tend to maybe need a few extra minutes. But I did just want to bring up on the Philly side of things, we've got Trez Harrell sitting at 99% probable on the under for the points, and it's by that same exact token as I was talking about before with the Brogdon one. It's just against a different minutes projection than what we're expecting him to play. We've got him projected for 9.7 minutes. He's going to be the backup center, but you got to figure Joel Embiid is going to be out there for most of this game. Trez is going to get 10 to 12 minutes at most, and you just don't expect him to put up 11.5 real life points or a 17.5 points plus rebounds. It's just, he projects well under that. The points plus rebounds is 98.9. His rebound pure alone is 5.5 line against a 98% probability. So any one of those, or just rotating through the Trez Harrell picks at the top. Harden assists is in the 80s. Tyrese Maxey assists under, and his PRA are both in the 80s. So there's some good picks on the Philly side of things in the unders.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The other thing you want to remember is, as Terry mentioned, they have Montrezl Harrell now. Everybody's healthy. They've added Daniel House. We've got DeAnthony Melton in there. So all of a sudden, Shake Milton goes from kind of the fourth guard to, yikes, he may be a little out of the rotation. Matisse Thybulle, he will be in there as a defensive stopper, but they can now pick and choose when they want to use him. Despite being a reasonably good or ineffective shooter in college, that really hasn't translated to the NBA for him. But they're like, go out and guard their best player and shut him down, right? So expend your energy there. The point is, tonight or for Tuesday night, the unders are probably looking good because we haven't seen full rotations. Yeah, could Montrezl Harrell go out there and get a 20 and 10? Yeah, but he's going to need a couple people to get hurt before that's going to happen. Yeah, right. At least
if Embiid fouls out in the second quarter or something like that, then maybe there's a thin line to that. But yeah, right. Ultimately NBA is all about the minutes, right? Everything is driven by minutes and rates, and then there's a little bit of happenstance between what falls and what doesn't, what lands in somebody's hands and doesn't. Otherwise, it's all just about how many minutes these guys are going to be on the floor, and that's what we need to exploit for the top end of these cards on No House. We're just looking for those high probabilities based on an incorrect market against the minutes expectation. That's really what it boils down to.
Absolutely. All right, we ready for the next game?
Yep, I think so.
Nightcap, if you will. So we've got the Los Angeles Lakers in Golden State. There are 6.5 point underdogs here. Dennis Schroeder is going to be, I don't know why I said it that way. Dennis Schroeder is going to be out for at least 10 days. He is dealing with, I can't remember if it's a a fractured finger or a severely sprained finger, but he's basically been ruled out for the first 3 games at least, so a good 10 days. Lonnie Walker is now with Los Angeles. He's likely to be the starter in there. They still have Austin Reeves, so we may no Malik Monk, so we may see some mixing and matching. They've got Pat Beverly there as well. You've got Russell Westbrook. Latest articles about him are how disinterested he looks. So, hey, the Lakers putting the fun back in dysfunction once again this season. So on the other side, Golden State, James Wiseman allegedly finally healthy. Have we seen it? This is like sighting a unicorn. But he's there. That kind of crowds things a little bit. We know that they'll be easy on his minutes, likely. We're looking probably 17 to 20 minutes would be my guess for him. Dante DiVincenzo's in the mix. JaMychal Green is also new. Green's a little bit dinged up. So they're a little deeper than what we saw during the playoffs when we were looking at Gary Payton II and some other options there. Looks like there's some good stuff in this game, Terry. I hand the baton back to you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, sir. Absolutely. There's some good stuff. Starting off the top with James Wiseman, excellent player. Hopefully I think he's going to be an excellent player. We'll see. We haven't seen enough of him to know that for sure. But the per 36 numbers when he was healthy for, I think it was 31 games year before last, he missed all of last year with a knee injury, were very sharp and very nice. And in a per 36 sense, like looking at his points projection or his points line here, it's a 17.5 line. His per 36, he was over that. He was 19 and change points per 36 in his rookie season in those 30 some odd games. That was in 36 minutes. We're projecting him for 15. So he's just not going to get there. He would, I mean, if he was projected for over 20 minutes, I still wouldn't be comfortable saying it. I think he would need a full complement of minutes on this team to get that scoring output. I really do. Just, you see the ball going in so many different directions on the Warriors. They're not going to go through this kid for scoring in the limited time that he is on the court. Even if he was fully healthy, fully incorporated into the rotation and everything that they do, I still don't really see him going to him that much, especially at the outset here. So I just think on minutes alone, it's easily there. And looking at our board, it's at 100%. We have it at 100% probable to go under for both his points and his PRA. Maybe you want to call it 99.99999.
I was going to say, note to the back office team, perhaps we cap things at 99 just because something could happen.
Maybe we don't go 100%. I agree with that. But yeah, that is one of the more likely spots that you're going to see. You don't get much more likely than 100 or 99 and change percent. By the same token, any of his picks are pretty strong at the top of the board there. It falls off pretty rapidly after that on the Golden State side in terms of the unders. You do have some overs that are landing in the high 60s and the low 70s around some of the obvious things. Steph Curry rebounds over 4.5. He's over 5.4 in our projections. It's fine. That's why it's in the low 70s. It's not incredibly strong, but it's not unlikely to happen. I think it's a decent spot. Steph in a per 36 sense last year, 5 rebounds per 36. So we're projecting him for a little bit more than that in terms of the output, but the line that we need is only at 4.5. So I think we can get him over that. Similar with Clay. Clay had a 5.5 per 36 last year. He's only at 3.5. So that one's a little bit stronger. Maybe it's projecting out about the same because we've got Clay projected for a 4.4. So we're just seeing Clay getting a fewer rebounds than what his output looked like last year for whatever reason. So I would consider those for those down lineup picks, those, like we were saying before, the 4 and below confidence ratings where you're filling in with these extremely high ones on the top of the card. Another top of the card pick from the other side of this one, Kendrick Nunn, who is also in that guard conversation for the Lakers. Also a guy who missed all of last year. Coming back, we've got him projected at a 24.6 minute projection. So we do have him projected to be involved, but these are pretty strong numbers. His PRA is sitting at 23.5. We've got him projected for a 14.04, which seems pretty reasonable, I think, when we consider who Kendrick Nunn is and how he's going to be involved and just, get worked into this rotation. His per 36 numbers, 18.3 points and 3.7 assists and 3.6 rebounds. So it's at 6. It's about 24 and change. So that's putting him right around his career numbers on that PRA in a per 36 sense. We're projecting him for 10 fewer minutes, and you have to think he's not going to be at exactly peak form his first game back with this team. So I like that one very strongly. It's a 99.7 at the top of the board. His raw points is 97, and everything else is 85 and above Russ Westbrook also sitting there. Russ Westbrook's assists, 6.5 line, 4.95 projection. And just with everything going on, you could just easily see Russ not being engaged. And if he is engaged, more maybe on the scoring than anything else. So I like the assists under against Russ there a lot.
All right, so I'm dropping what producer Mike is showing on the screen there. I'm going to drop the link in there to chat. This is how you can get the free projections here at No House Advantage. You can sort these any way you want. These are not going to go behind the paywall because No House Advantage wants you to go play on their site. So they've asked us to keep these free for you. So we've got, there's filters across the top. You can sort by player name. You can use the ascending, descending sorts for the overs or the unders, or if you just want to look at overs or unders, you know, that's an easy way to find the access to the different information. So that's very helpful, and that allows us to quickly point out and find things that are going to be standing out, such as the Wiseman play, the Nunn, the Harrell, Brogdon, etc. Those are all right there, free and available for you with regards to that. Let's look at a couple more things here. Andre Iguodala not going to be playing. He didn't start. I don't even think he scrimmaged yet or practiced in 5-on-5s. He'll be around. He's there to, you know, maybe help get another ring.
I heard they had a preseason.
Yeah, a slightly more active Udonis Haslem, maybe, right? Maybe is what we have in Andre Iguodala.
Wow.
What? These not slide. Hey, they were teammates at one point, right? Weren't they? Just
yeah, I think
technically,
definitely. Yeah, right.
But yeah, so he's going to be floating around, but not really expected to play for the first month or so. But that's why they've brought in Dante DiVincenzo. Of course, they've got Kuminga there, as you mentioned. Klay Thompson. Word was he's still looking a little sluggish with the two. I don't want to say catastrophic, but darn near catastrophic leg injuries that he's dealing with. So hopefully that's something that he'll continue to improve and get better as we get into the season here. But what else is popping for you on the plays that we have? Do you have anything you'd like to mention from the Lakers? Because it feels like.
Well,
we're obligated to talk about the Lakers.
Yeah, the Kendrick Nunn unders were all explosively high. You know, those Kendrick Nunn, James Wiseman on the unders, and then the Brogdon one, and then, or excuse me, Kendrick Nunn, Wiseman, Trez Harrell, and then the Brogdon one in that order should be any one of their props each should be your top 4 picks, as treat it like a cash game, like we said, and then just start weaving in some of these 80s, like the Russ Westbrook under on the assists is an 80%er. I like that a lot. I think that makes a ton of sense. On the high side, like we can look at Anthony Davis, 75% probability to go over 8.5 rebounds. We've got him projected for 9.92.
We're just on Twitter. Anthony Davis headed to the locker room. Come on, you have obligatory
first one of the year. Nicely done.
But yeah,
you actually got me for half a second. I was like, what could possibly happen? Oh, right. So per 36 last year, he was a 10.1. So, I mean, we're pretty comfortably there. We've got him projected slightly under 36. There is always the AD possibility of things. Opening night too, you know, maybe he just comes out and plays 30, 31 minutes. I still think he's got a shot to get there. It's going to be a fairly open game against this team. That said, there is a pretty good rebounding core on the other side, but it's a stronger one. So one of the down cards ones that you can mix in 75%er. And then the Klay Thompson, you know, for as rusty as he may look, as sluggish as he may look, still averaged 20 points last season, 54.7% true shooting, 20 points per game in 29.4 minutes per game. So, I mean, it's Klay, as far as scoring, as far as 3-point shooting, I'm always going to be comfortable at least looking at those lines. He doesn't stand out really for anything in terms of points, 51% or 19.6 versus a 19.5 line. That's pretty dead on. 3.48 threes made versus a 3.5 line. That's also pretty dead on. So nothing stands out for him, but I expect we'll see a nice season as long as he stays relatively healthy.
All righty, so we're going to kind of wind down. I do want to answer one question that was in chat there. It says, Jason Q says, why the under on Nunn? And then another question, but is he a lock at 3K on DFS? The answer to that would be yes. So you heard Terry referencing per 36 numbers. That's kind of a nice way to see what somebody does in a game on average. The players that play the most minutes in the league, about number 10 or 12, gets to around 36 minutes per game. It's just kind of a nice, if they were going to play literally, 8 minutes per quarter or 8.5 minutes per quarter, that's about what they would get. And
if we're referencing starters minutes, we're saying,
correct,
34, 36 minutes.
Yeah. And you're sort of looking at that to say, okay, now how many minutes do we have Kendrick Nunn playing? And if we only have him playing, I'm making this up, but for illustrative purposes, but if we said his per 36 is 7 assists and he's going to play 10 minutes or 15 minutes, he's not going to get there. Could he get lucky and pass the ball to AD and LeBron three consecutive trips and get an assist on it? Yeah, that could happen. He also could get absolutely 0 assists for an entire game, right? These are averages and rates, but that's just sort of an example there where we want to say, that's the per 36 then doesn't take into account specific matchup, pace, potential change in rotations, coaching decisions, foul trouble, upset stomach, good.
Yeah, we'll see all that start to
came into Miami the night before and had an off night kind of days, right? So the things that could change this stuff, but it's kind of a quick bellwether mark to say, oh yeah, they're really not going to get there, or oh, interesting, minutes likely to double tonight. Using this as a proxy, where could they get? What are the lines at right now? We do all that heavy lifting for you, but yeah, Nunn is going to be a perfectly fine play at DFS at the minimum. There's a slight chance he could start. Who knows what's happening with Westbrook? We'll know more tomorrow, I suspect.
And more to the point, I mean, even if he doesn't start at the dead minimum at 3,000, if he's getting the minutes, the 24 and change
20
minutes, that's fantastic. That's going to be a strong value. I haven't really looked at the DFS slates, but I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say that if that is the price, he's going to be a relevant play tomorrow, unless we see his minutes drop to like 10 or 12 or something like that. And even then, at that price, that player could potentially produce enough value, and it would be, it would be dead toward the bottom of where you would want him, but it is only a 2-game slate. So yeah, that's going to be in play. That's going to be probably a pretty key factor tomorrow for DFS purposes, but we don't have to worry about that on NHJ.
Right. And then the final thing to remember on this is where the RPA, rebounds, points, assists, or PRA, points, rebound. I always think RPA.
I was going to let you go.
Yeah, PRA. What? My day job acronyms are.
Mike, you mark that. We got to edit that out. Fix it in post.
Yeah, we'll fix it in post. But that gets closer to the fantasy projections, right? We're here picking one statistical category. You could still have Nunn out there, get 15 fantasy points, but no assists, right? And we're like, yeah, minimum price. I got what I needed. And then in Austin Bed, you're like, what a bum. He didn't get any assists, right? So you have to kind of look at the context. And that's what we're here to do, is to help you guys find the different ways of looking at it. The thing to remember in DFS, there are no absolute rules.
And we'll see some of those through the year where we'll say, hey, look, this is high for this guy in that stat, or this guy in this situation, a guy, coming off the bench, or a guy who was a former starter moving to the bench or something like that. And the stats just a little high, or just for his skill set, it's a little high. By the same token, there will be times where we'll say the points one seems like he could get there. The assist one seems like he could get there. But if we throw the rebounds on top and we give him a little bit more to do, it thins it out and he might not get there. So maybe we do give him the full PRA and try and chase that. So these are the different plays we'll talk through the season. And it's NHA is a really fun, interesting site.
All right. Well, we're going to wind on down, but remember, you sign up through the link that is below us here in the description for No House Advantage. You get an immediate deposit match up to $50. Those funds come out of your account first as you go into their contest. They have a 3,000 person contest with a $20 entry fee tomorrow, $20,000 to the top. Yeah, there's only like 35 people in there now. We'll be shocked if that gets more than 60% full. I will be doing cartwheels for them if it gets over half full, because other people are going to be looking at the big prize pools on DraftKings and DK and etc., and they're not realizing they're going against a bunch of hardcore crazies. Here, yeah, are you going against a bunch of hardcore crazies? Probably, but guess what? they're paying out double what they're going to be taking in. You don't get deals like this. We've got the tools here for you for free. We're trying to help you out here. This is going to be a recurring show for NBA each of our weekdays here. So definitely check out No House Advantage. But with that, we're going to get on out of here. Thank you, Terry. This was a lot of fun. You can find Terry on Twitter at DigitalB21. I am at EMac DFS. And of course, it is Stokastic_COM. With that,
hey, and happy birthday to my mom. Glad I remembered
happy
to say
birthday,
that.
Mrs. T. McBee. Feliz cumpleaños.
Thank you.
With that, gamers, good luck.